Let me ask you something that might feel a little uncomfortable. How many times have you set a goal, a real one that genuinely mattered to you, felt the motivation, made the plan, started moving forward, and then watched yourself, almost in slow motion, pull back? Procrastinate. Doubt. Find reasons why now is not the right time, why you are not quite ready, why something else needs to happen first. And how many times has that pattern repeated itself? Not once, not twice, but as a cycle, the same loop showing up in different circumstances, wearing different clothes, but always arriving at the same destination, the same place you started, the same financial ceiling, the same gap between the life you know is possible and the one you are actually living. Stay with me here, because what I am about to tell you is the thing that changed everything about how I understood my own story. That pattern is not a character flaw. It is not evidence that you lack discipline or willpower or the capacity to create what you want. It is not proof that financial freedom is meant for other people, but not for you. It is a program, a deeply embedded, automatically executing, completely impersonal program that was installed long before you had any conscious awareness of it. And like any program, it runs whether you want it to or not, until you understand what it is, where it came from, and how to interrupt it. Think about this for a second. A program does not care about your intentions. It does not respond to motivation or inspiration or the genuine sincerity of your desire for something different. It simply executes, again and again, with the same faithfulness and the same indifference that any automated system brings to its function. This reframe, from personal failing to installed program, was one of the most genuinely liberating things I ever encountered in my own financial journey, not because it removed my responsibility, but because it shifted the question from what is wrong with me to what is the program and how do I change it? And that is a question that actually has an answer. I spent years in the financial and insurance world watching brilliant, capable, genuinely motivated people hit the same ceilings repeatedly, not because they lacked skill or intelligence or work ethic, but because something underneath all of those surface-level competencies kept pulling them back to a familiar financial baseline. I saw it in colleagues, I saw it in clients, and I saw it, clearly and unmistakably, in myself. The moment I stopped interpreting that pattern as a personal failure and started seeing it as a program, one that could be identified, interrupted, and gradually replaced, something shifted in how I approached the entire project of creating a different financial reality. Not with more willpower, not with more discipline, with understanding, with strategy, with the specific, practical tools that actually address the program at the level where it lives, rather than trying to override it from the surface. By the end of this conversation, I am going to walk you through 4 specific keys that finally allowed me to identify and begin dismantling the self-sabotage program that had been running my financial life. Not as concepts to think about, as a practical framework you can begin applying today. But first, and this is the piece that makes everything else land differently, I want to make sure you genuinely understand what this program actually is and why it operates the way it does. Because once you see it clearly, the self-sabotage stops feeling like something happening to you and starts feeling like something you finally have the tools to address. If you are new here, hit subscribe and grab the free PDF on equal hours and their meanings linked in the description. Now let's get into it. Okay, so now we have named the program, and I want to start with something that I think is going to completely reframe the way you think about manifestation. Not just self-sabotage, but the entire practice of creating a different financial reality. Stay with me here, because what comes next genuinely stopped me in my tracks the first time I heard it clearly. Most people approach manifestation as an attraction practice. Focus on what you want. Visualize it. Affirm it. Feel it. Pull it toward you from the field of infinite possibilities. And there is real truth in that framework, but here is the piece that most people miss. And missing it is precisely what keeps the self-sabotage program running underneath all of that conscious effort. When you focus intensely on wanting something, you are simultaneously broadcasting the frequency of not having it. Think about this for a second. Wanting implies lack. Desire implies distance. The very act of reaching towards something from a place of needing it to arrive confirms, at the energetic level, that it has not arrived yet. And the law of attraction, operating with complete impersonal precision, responds to the dominant signal, which is not your conscious desire. It is the underlying frequency of absence from which that desire is being generated. This is exactly what Neville Goddard pointed to when he taught that the secret is not to attract your desire, but to inhabit it, to live from the end, to operate from the felt reality of already having rather than from the effortful reaching of still wanting. And it is exactly what Bashar confirms when he says that you cannot see what you are not vibrating, that the frequency you are broadcasting determines what becomes visible and available to you in your reality. The real work of manifestation, then, is not attraction. It is purification, purifying the source of what you are creating, which is not somewhere out there in the field of possibilities. It is in here, in your thoughts, your imagination, your dominant emotional state, your baseline relationship with abundance, and with your own worthiness to receive it. And this brings us to the first key. Key 1, thought mastery. Not positive thinking, not forced cheerfulness layered over genuine fear and doubt. Something far more precise and far more powerful than that. Every thought you think is a creative act. Not metaphorically, energetically, in a way that has real and measurable consequences in the field of possibility you are navigating. Every moment of financial anxiety, every mental rehearsal of worst-case scenarios, every quiet whisper of it will not work out for me, or I am not the kind of person who gets to have this. Each of those thoughts is adding something to the field, shaping what becomes available, reinforcing the program of self-sabotage rather than interrupting it. Understanding this is the first key, not because it makes you responsible for policing every thought. That is an exhausting and ultimately counterproductive approach, but because it shifts your relationship to your own thinking from passive to strategic. You begin to ask not just what am I thinking, but what am I creating with this thought? What am I adding to the field right now? And is that what I actually want to be building? Caroline, and I want to be honest here, spent years in the financial world generating enormous amounts of mental energy around financial anxiety, around worst-case scenarios, around the persistent low-grade fear that things might not work out. Not because she was a negative person, because the program was running, because the thoughts were automatic and the field was receiving them faithfully and building from them consistently. The moment thought mastery became not about stopping the negative thoughts, but about genuinely understanding their creative consequence, something shifted. The practice became less effortful and more strategic, less about fighting the mind and more about consciously choosing what to feed. Are you following me so far? Good, because this is where it gets really interesting. Key 2, detachment from the how. Okay, so here is where it gets wild. And I know this one is going to feel counterintuitive because everything in our culture tells us that wanting something badly with everything you have is what makes it happen. But here is what the self-sabotage program does with intense, ego-driven wanting. It locks the field of possibilities into a narrow band. It essentially tells your deeper intelligence, the part of you that can perceive outcomes and pathways far beyond what your rational mind can access, that there is only one acceptable solution, one specific path, one precise outcome. And anything outside of that exact vision gets filtered out before it can even reach your conscious awareness. Think about this for a second. Imagine you are standing at the base of a mountain, looking at the path directly in front of you. You can see a certain distance ahead, a certain distance behind, and a little to either side. But you cannot see what is beyond the curve in the road, what is over the ridge, what extraordinary pathway might exist just out of your current line of sight. Now imagine there is a version of you standing at the top of that mountain with a 360-degree view of everything. Every path, every possibility, every route that could get you from where you are to where you want to be, including ones that are far better, far more aligned, far more abundant than anything your limited vantage point could generate. That higher perspective, call it your higher self, your deeper intelligence, the part of you that Neville Goddard described as the greater you operating beyond the limitations of the physical senses. That perspective is always available to you, but only when you are not so rigidly fixated on a specific outcome that you have closed the channel through which that guidance can reach you. And here is the part that genuinely gave me chills when I first understood it. The intense, desperate, ego-driven wanting, the I need this to happen this way or nothing will be okay energy, is one of the most effective forms of self-sabotage available, not because wanting is wrong, but because rigid attachment to a specific how narrows your perceptual field to the point where the genuinely best solution, the one your deeper intelligence can see from the top of the mountain, cannot get through. The shift is this. Desire without attachment to the how. Know what you want, the feeling, the freedom, the financial reality you are building toward. Hold that clearly and without apology. But release the specific route. Release the timeline. Release the particular form you have decided the answer must take. And trust that an intelligence within you, one with a far wider view than your rational mind, is actively working on your behalf to find the best possible path. This is not passive resignation. This is strategic surrender. The most courageous and most practically effective thing you can do for your financial manifestation is to stop white-knuckling the how and start trusting the deeper intelligence that can see what you cannot. And when you do that, when you genuinely make that internal shift from controlled wanting to trusting desire, you open something. A channel. A receptivity. A capacity to perceive and receive solutions that were always there, but simply invisible from the contracted, ego-driven state of desperate wanting. Which brings us to the most powerful practical tool for making all of this work while you sleep. This next part, this is the one that changed everything for me. And I want to share it with the same specificity that made it land for me, because I think vague spiritual advice is one of the primary reasons most people never actually experience the shift they are working toward. So let me be precise. Every night before you fall asleep, there is a window, a specific, scientifically documented, extraordinarily powerful window of neurological receptivity that most people pass through completely unconsciously, surrendering it to worry, to mental rehearsal of tomorrow's problems, to the anxious scrolling of a phone screen until sleep finally arrives. That window is the hypnagogic state, the threshold between waking and sleeping where the critical faculty of the conscious mind relaxes its grip, and the deeper layers of your intelligence become genuinely accessible in a way they simply are not during ordinary waking consciousness. We have talked about this window before on this channel, through Neville Goddard's teaching on the state akin to sleep, through Dr. Andrew Huberman's neuroscience research on the receptivity of the brain in that threshold state, through Dr. Joe Dispenza's work on elevated emotion as the key to genuine subconscious reprogramming. Every one of those completely different frameworks points to the same window. The same 5 minutes before sleep as the most powerful reprogramming opportunity available to any human being on any given day. And what I want to share now is the most practical and most immediately applicable way I have found to use that window deliberately, not just for emotional reprogramming, but for actively engaging the deeper intelligence within you to work on your most pressing financial questions while you sleep. Here is the 4-step practice, and I want you to really stay with each step because the specificity matters. Step 1, present the problem, not the solution. This is the step that most people get backwards. They go to sleep trying to solve the problem, running mental scenarios, calculating options, rehearsing conversations. And that mental activity keeps the conscious mind engaged precisely at the moment when you need it to step back. Instead, as you lie down tonight, simply bring the problem into your awareness clearly and without judgment. Not to solve it, not to analyze it, just to name it honestly. I have this financial situation that I have not been able to resolve. I have been trying to break through this ceiling, and I keep returning to the same place. I have this question about the direction I am moving in, and I genuinely do not know the answer. Present the question, then stop there. The moment you begin trying to generate the answer yourself, you have re-engaged the limited, rational, mountain-based perspective that cannot see the full picture. Your job in this step is simply to be honest about what you are carrying, not to fix it, just to name it. Step 2, elevate your emotional state. You still with me? Good, because what I am about to share is the part most people never hear. The quality of your emotional state as you enter sleep is not just spiritually relevant, it is neurologically determinative of what kind of information your deeper intelligence can access and return to you. A nervous system flooded with anxiety, with the low-grade cortisol of unresolved financial stress, with the contracted survival-oriented state of someone who needs things to work out. That nervous system is not in a receptive state. It is in a protective state, and protection and genuine receptivity are neurologically incompatible. So before you surrender to sleep, take a few deliberate breaths. Use the breathwork practice we have explored on this channel if you have built it, the slow, extended exhale that activates the parasympathetic nervous system and begins to quiet the background noise of the sympathetic activation most of us carry into bed. And from that slightly quieter physiological state, consciously generate, even briefly, even imperfectly, a genuine feeling of peace, of trust, of the warmth that comes from knowing that something within you, is working on your behalf even when you are not consciously directing it. This elevated emotional state is not a performance. It is a neurological preparation. You are creating the conditions in which the deeper intelligence within you can operate most effectively. Step 3. Consciously deliver the question. From that elevated state, with the problem named and the nervous system quieter, speak to the deeper part of yourself with genuine intention. You can do this silently, mentally, or in a whisper. The words matter less than the genuine quality of the intention behind them. Something like, I am presenting this question to the deepest, most knowing part of me. Please explore the possibilities I cannot see from where I am standing. Please bring me the solution that is most aligned with my highest good and the highest good of everyone involved. I trust that you have a wider view than I do. And I am genuinely open to receiving whatever you find, even if it looks different from what I expected. Then, and this is the part that the ego finds most difficult, let it go, completely. Don't rehearse the problem again. Don't start generating solutions. Don't check whether you feel like something has shifted. Just release it with the genuine trust of someone who has placed an order and knows it will be fulfilled. Step 4. Sleep. That is it. Just sleep. With the settled confidence of someone who has handed a task to someone more capable than themselves and genuinely trusts that it will be handled. Not with anxious wondering about when the answer will arrive. Not with the need to know the timeline or the method. Just the quiet, grounded trust of genuine surrender. Now, and I know this question is coming, so let me address it directly. How long does this take? The honest answer is that it varies. Sometimes the clarity arrives at waking the next morning, as a sudden knowing that feels like it was already there when you opened your eyes. Sometimes it arrives in the middle of the night, as an idea so clear and so complete that you need to write it down immediately. And sometimes it takes longer days, occasionally weeks, as the deeper intelligence explores possibilities and tests pathways before returning with what it has found. The key is the same regardless of the timeline. You have done your part. You have named the question, prepared the ground, delivered the task, and released the outcome. Now your job is simply to remain open, to notice what arrives in whatever form it takes. And that is exactly what the 4th key is about. Let me tell you something that stopped me completely when I finally understood it. Not as a concept, as a lived, personal, genuinely humbling recognition. The deeper intelligence within you is always communicating. Always. It has never been silent. It has never withheld guidance or left you without direction. The problem was never that the signal was absent. The problem was that I was not listening. Or more precisely, I was listening, but I was immediately overriding what I heard with logic, with doubt, with the rational mind's insistence that if it cannot be explained, it probably should not be trusted. That is the final form of self-sabotage, and it is the most devastating one, because it happens at the exact moment when everything else has worked. When you have done the thought mastery, released the attachment to the how, used the sleep portal to engage your deeper intelligence, and then the guidance arrives, and you ignore it. Not because you did not hear it, but because it did not come wrapped in logical explanation, because it felt too simple, or too unexpected, or too different from what you thought the answer should look like. This is the 4th key, learning to recognize, trust, and, most importantly, act on the guidance that your deeper intelligence is constantly offering you. And it arrives in 3 specific forms. Stay with me here, because once you know what to look for, you will start seeing it everywhere. The first form is internal certainty. A sudden, inexplicable knowing. Not a thought you reasoned your way toward, a knowing that arrives fully formed before logic has had time to engage. A calm that appears in the middle of chaos. A sense of this is the right direction that does not come with a rational explanation and does not need one. You have felt this before. Everyone has. Most people dismiss it immediately, because we have been trained to trust logic over intuition, evidence over inner knowing, the explicable over the felt sense of truth. But what neuroscience is now confirming is that the brain receives information approximately half a second before we become consciously aware of it. Which means that what we experience as sudden intuition is often the conscious mind finally catching up with information, the deeper intelligence processed first. Think about this for a second. Your deeper intelligence is not slower than your rational mind. It is faster. What feels like a sudden knowing is actually the tail end of a process that was already complete before your conscious awareness arrived. The second form is synchronicity. Okay, so here is where it gets genuinely interesting, because this is the form that most people either dismiss as coincidence or, on the other end, overinterpret as cosmic confirmation of every random event. Synchronicity in the context of genuine guidance has a specific quality. It is not just any unexpected event. It is an event that arrives at precisely the right moment to confirm a direction you were already sensing internally. A conversation overheard that answers a question you were sitting with. A book that falls open to exactly the page you needed. An unexpected connection that provides precisely the resource or perspective you were looking for. The distinguishing feature is the felt sense of recognition that accompanies it. Not just, oh, that is interesting, but oh, there it is. The quiet, internal click of something confirming something you already knew at a deeper level than you had consciously acknowledged. We have explored this extensively in our Bashar video on this channel, the idea that synchronicity is not accidental but orchestrated, that nothing in a genuinely aligned life happens by pure coincidence. And what this framework adds to that conversation is practical. When you have used the sleep portal to engage your deeper intelligence around a specific question, the synchronicities that follow are often directly related to the answer that intelligence is trying to deliver to you. The third form is clarity upon waking. And here is the part that genuinely gave me chills when I first began experiencing it consistently. You wake up, sometimes in the middle of the night, sometimes at the first moment of morning consciousness, and the answer is simply there. Not something you have to construct or retrieve or think your way toward. Present. Complete. Clear in a way that feels qualitatively different from ordinary thought. This is the sleep portal working exactly as it is designed to. Your deeper intelligence has explored the possibilities, found the most aligned path, and delivered the information to your conscious awareness at the precise moment of maximum receptivity. The threshold between sleeping and waking, when the hypnagogic state is active, and the channel between your deeper intelligence and your conscious mind is at its most open. When this happens, and it will happen if you practice the 4-step process consistently, the most important thing you can do is capture it immediately. Write it down. Record a voice note. Do whatever you need to do to anchor that clarity before the ordinary demands of the waking day crowd it out. Because that information arrived from a level of intelligence that has a wider view than your rational mind. And it deserves to be treated with the seriousness that implies. Now, the action. Everything I have just described, the thought mastery, the detachment from the how, the sleep portal, the recognition of guidance, all of it leads to a single moment. The moment when the guidance has arrived and you have to decide what to do with it. And this is where I want to be completely honest with you, because I spent years receiving genuine intuitive guidance and then doing nothing with it, not because I did not recognize it, but because my rational mind immediately generated 17 reasons why it was probably not reliable, probably not practical, probably not the kind of thing a serious, grounded, financially sophisticated person should base a decision on. I missed opportunities because of that. Real ones, financial ones that I can look back on now and see clearly. The guidance was right, the moment was right, and the only thing that was not right was my willingness to trust what I was receiving enough to act on it. The self-sabotage program does not only operate in the thought patterns that pull you back from expansion, it operates in the hesitation that follows genuine guidance, in the second guessing that dismantles the knowing before you have had a chance to act on it, in the excessive rationality that requires a logical explanation for every move before any move can be made. The antidote is not recklessness. It is not abandoning discernment or leaping toward every passing impulse without reflection. It is developing the specific capacity to distinguish between the quiet, settled, already knowing quality of genuine intuitive guidance and the anxious, urgent, fear-driven impulses of the self-sabotage program trying to masquerade as wisdom. Genuine guidance feels like recognition, like something you already knew arriving with enough clarity to finally act on. It does not demand immediate compliance or create panic if you pause to breathe. It simply waits, with the patient, settled confidence of something that is true, for you to be ready to receive it fully. And when you are ready, when you have done the work of clearing the thought patterns, releasing the attachment, using the sleep portal, and developing the discernment to recognize what is arriving, the final step is always the same. Act, move. Follow the thread wherever it leads, even when the destination is not yet visible, even when the rational mind has not yet caught up, even when everything in you that was programmed for failure is generating resistance to the very thing your deeper intelligence is asking you to do. Because the program loses its power the moment you move through it. Not before, not in the planning or the preparation or the deciding, in the moving. That is the moment the cycle finally breaks, not with a dramatic transformation or an overnight miracle, with a single act of trust, a single choice to follow the guidance rather than the fear, a single moment of proving to yourself and to the program that you are no longer its prisoner. And from that moment, everything becomes possible that was not possible before. Thank you so much for staying with me until the end of this video. It truly means the world to me, and I hope this conversation brought you something real, something that changes not just how you understand self-sabotage, but how you actually navigate it starting today. If this resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel. We have so much more to explore together. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, share it with them. You never know whose life you might change with a single conversation. The books that have shaped my journey are all linked in the description below, and the free PDF on equal hours and their meanings is there too. Grab yours if you have not already. Thank you for being here. I will see you in the next one.